Have you ever wanted something really bad, but you just didn't think you had what it took to get it? It could have been a new job. It could have been starting a new business. Maybe it was a new relationship that you wanted to have. But whatever the case is, something in you made you feel like you could not get that thing you wanted. Well, if you've ever dealt with that, then you might have suffered from imposter syndrome. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the Introvert Experience. What's up, everybody? This is Terrence, aka the Introvert Leader. Welcome to the Introvert Experience. And I just wanted to talk a little bit today about a thing called imposter syndrome. So this is something that I was going back through my episodes in my catalog, and I don't recall really talking about this directly. I think that indirectly we've talked about setting goals, and we've talked about things that can get in the way of that. We've talked about getting over obstacles and our self-doubt and various things we might deal with. But we haven't directly spoken about imposter syndrome and really what that means and how to get over that and what some of the pitfalls are of having that. So I really wanted to touch on that today. And by the way, imposter syndrome, what we're going to talk about, this is not something that just introverts deal with, okay? So I don't want you to listen to this episode and think that introverts are the only people that suffer this sometimes, because extroverts do as well. This is really something that just people often might deal with. So again, being an author, and I always talk about this, I'm really big on words. I'm big on definition. What do things actually mean? All right, so I've got the definition pulled up here, so I just want to read that off for you all. So imposter syndrome is a behavioral health phenomenon described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high-achieving individuals. Again, described as self-doubt of intellect, skills, or accomplishments among high-achieving individuals, okay? So when we think about imposter syndrome, I think it's something that you often see in environments with people that are high performing. Oftentimes you'll see this in the corporate culture. You'll see this in the business world. You'll see this in academia. You'll see this in these different arenas that people are in, where there are people going after big goals, or people that are trying to climb a ladder, or people that are trying to achieve, right? And our human nature is oftentimes to compare. It just is. We do it without even thinking about it. We compare ourselves to other people, and we're looking at what other people are doing. And when we do that, we're measuring ourselves up to their way of doing things. I can tell you that this is something, especially early on in my career and in my leadership journey, I used to do all the time. I would look at other people on my team. I would look at people that were, to me, a lot more outgoing and a lot more outspoken in the way they would do things, and I would compare myself to that. And it made me feel like, because they operate that way and I don't, that means that I don't have the skills or have what it takes to get to the level that they're at. And I would view people that were managers and people that were leaders and directors like they were on some pedestal, and it was just some level that I could never get to because I just didn't have those skills. And what it turned out to be is that I was completely wrong, and I could not have been farther from the truth. A lot of the things that those people were good at, well, they were the things that those people were good at. But guess what? I had things that I was good at as well. But the feeling of self-doubt, it almost caused me to completely not pursue opportunities. And I say almost because early on in my career, there were opportunities that I didn't pursue. And luckily, just going through my career and over the years, I began to pursue certain opportunities that ended up being the right fit for me and led me down a completely different path to where I am today. But I wanted to just talk about this a little bit, because you might be listening to this, and I don't know if it's a job that you want to apply for, and maybe you don't have all the qualifications in the job description, or maybe it's some business endeavor that you're thinking about doing, but in your mind, when you think about it, you say to yourself, well, I've never really done anything like that before. I don't know how I'm gonna pull this off. I could probably never do this. I'm not as good as this other person over here. Or maybe there's somebody that you want to meet. You want to network with somebody, or make a connection. Maybe it's a romantic relationship you want to pursue with somebody, but you say to yourself, I don't think I'm quite on that person's level yet to meet them. I don't really know if I could make this work with this person, so I'm not going to pursue that. We talk ourselves out of so many different things. This festival that I was at in Atlanta here a few weekends ago, talked about it on the last episode. There was someone, XIE, I believe was her name. She was a panelist, and she was on a few of the AI panels where they were talking about artificial intelligence. Extremely sharp, extremely sharp. I really enjoyed listening to her speak. And she told a story about how she grew up in Richmond, in a low-income area, had a difficult childhood. She was in and out of juvenile, in and out of juvie when she was young, and she ended up going into the military. And what's crazy is she ended up basically becoming a pioneer of AI. So she's somebody that she started doing coding and things when she went into the military, and had no technical background prior to that. Like was not a 4.0 student in high school or anything. In fact, she was a dropout. And fast forward, and she was on this panel talking about how she's now a consultant for several Fortune 500 companies, and talking to them about how to implement AI into their systems. And just the level at which her brain works is just like phenomenal. Like I was sitting there in awe just listening to her. But she told this story about how she got an opportunity to work with Google. And it was a really big opportunity, and she wasn't even gonna apply for it because she just didn't think she had the ability to do it, right? Here she was, a high school dropout, somebody that just came through the military but had no long corporate track record or no long resume of doing a lot of things in that space. Yet she was getting tapped by Google to apply for a position that could be life-changing, and she wasn't gonna apply for it. She said that she got an email about it and just avoided the email for a few weeks. She didn't think she could do the role. And she ended up taking it and did amazing. And now she has this amazing career, and she's, become this huge pioneer in the AI space. So I just tell that story because how many times have you had an opportunity where you talked yourself out of it? It's not even that you couldn't have done it. It's not even that someone else told you you can't do this thing. It's not even that the opportunity got blocked. You talked yourself out of it. I can tell you that I've done that. Early in my career, I definitely used to do that. There would be opportunities to speak in front of groups, or opportunities to go after new roles that would stretch my capability, things that would force me to grow. And I wouldn't go after those roles because I would read the job description, and if I didn't have every word in that description on my resume, I just wouldn't apply. I would say, well, they're not going to pick me. I don't have all of the qualifications, so I can't do this role. That's just the way my brain worked. And it's so limiting when we put ourselves in a box like that. It becomes very limiting. So when we think about imposter syndrome, it can become very crippling. But here's the good part. The good part is that you have complete control over it. Introverts are too quiet and too weak to lead. Have you ever heard this before? Well, my name is Terrence, and for years as an introvert, I didn't think I had what it took to be a leader. What I learned was being an introvert is my superpower. If you want to learn how to have success as an introvert, then go to quietvoicefearlessleader.com to learn more. You have complete control. And let me tell you a quick tip of how to get over imposter syndrome, all right? It is to go really, really big. And here's what I mean by that. That role that you want, this thing that you want to do, this mission that you have that you're trying to accomplish, I want you to not just go for that level of what you want, but to go even bigger than that. Go even bigger. Let's say that there's a job that you want. Well, look at that job, but think about what's the level beyond that. Think about where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. Don't limit yourself just to the next step. I want you to really think big. What's something that when you think about it, it makes you uncomfortable? Like, man, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could apply for a role at that level, or if I could ever get promoted to that point. I don't know if I could start a business and it grow to that level way up there. I think I'm going to be comfortable just trying to keep it here. Nah, don't do that. Go all the way big. Make a goal to where literally when you say it and when you think about it, it makes you uncomfortable. When you begin to do that, what it does, it forces you to think outside of your box. It forces you to confront the imposter syndrome and the doubts and all those things going through your head. It forces you to face them head on. So if there's a job you want and you don't think you are qualified based on what's in the description, or you don't think you meet all of the skills that are called out and all of that, I want you to apply anyway. Apply anyway. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen when we try to pursue things that scare us, when we try to pursue things that are hard, is we're gonna get told no. It's the worst that can happen. But what's even worse than that is an opportunity that we could have had we pursued it, and we never pursue it, and therefore we never even know what could have happened. What if you apply and you get it? What if you go for that big goal and it happens? What if everything aligns in place and it plays out perfectly in a way that you could have never planned it? If we don't try, we just never know, right? So imposter syndrome is a very dangerous thing. It can limit us. It can, really just hurt our potential, but it's in our head. And so if it's in our head, that means we can control it. We can identify it. We can defeat it. And the best way to do that is to go for big goals. So I want to encourage you, everybody listening to this episode, that whatever you might be dealing with, whatever you might be holding yourself back from, just go big. I say go big. We only get one life, right? And that's why at the end of every episode, I always end it with, let's make it count. Make life count, because we get one shot at this thing, all right? So don't doubt yourself. You have unique skills. You have unique abilities. You have something about you that makes you stand out and will allow you to accomplish whatever you're trying to do. So don't limit yourself, and never let imposter syndrome allow you to be limited, all right? So I hope you enjoyed the episode. This is something that I just really wanted to touch on. I was really inspired by hearing XIE at that conference here a few weeks ago, and her story of just where she came from. And that can be your story as well. That can be your story. You may think you're down and out. You may think that there's a ceiling on where you can go. You may think that you're already at your ceiling and this is it for you. And again, I want to encourage you to go big. All right. So don't doubt yourself. Go after what you want. All right. So, with that said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. And as always, remember, there's only one you and there's only one life. So make it count. God bless.